Hello, my name is Riley Bendorf, and my presentation today is on drunk driving in Wisconsin. I have two audience members, I guess three if you include the cat. Sydney, our psychologist specialist Sydney, and Officer Bartelt, Jared. So first things first, I'm going to start off with a Kahoot to test their knowledge on drunk driving in Wisconsin. So let's get that started. And it looks like we have our two people in. I'm going to go ahead and start the Kahoot. Drunk driving in Wisconsin. Of the 527 people that were killed in road accidents in Wisconsin in 2013, what percentage of them were alcohol related? 21, 30, okay. 21, 35, 43, or 60. My two guest members chose 43, but it was 35. Very close though. 35% of road accidents in 2013 that resulted in deaths were alcohol related. It's very sad, but that's actually the national average as well. But I'll get into that later in the presentation. And scores tied still. Oh. So what is the term for a drunk driving offense in Wisconsin? DUI, DWI, OWI, or OMVI? So it is OWI. OMVI is operating motor vehicle while intoxicated, but that's not the name for the drunk driving law. OWI is Wisconsin's version of a DUI. It encapsulates any kind of controlled substance abuse or while driving and drunk driving as well. Oh, God, I keep forgetting to hit that. True or false? OWI only involves drinking and driving offenses. False. As you guys recall, I said that in after the last question. It encapsulates controlled substances as well. Which option is the best way to avoid drunk driving? Get a taxi, Uber, or Lyft. Don't drink at all. Plan ahead. Or all of the above. All of the above. Of course, they're all good options. Yeah. Cindy's on fire. So what is the bar to grocery store ratio in Wisconsin? 1-to-1, 3-to-1, 5-to-1, or 6-to-1? You both got it right. It's 3-to-1. So Wisconsin is actually, and I'll get to this later in my presentation, Wisconsin is, the bars heavily outweigh grocery stores in Wisconsin. It's kind of sad actually. What is the Tavern League of Wisconsin? A very popular bar in Madison, Wisconsin. A bar softball league in southern Wisconsin. A group of bars that battle for customers while the Packers are playing. Or a trade association of alcoholic beverage retailers in Wisconsin. So you both got it right. A trade association is actually an organization founded and funded by businesses that operate in a specific industry, in this case, the alcohol industry. True or false? The Tavern League of Wisconsin is government funded. Both got that right. It is not government funded. And I'll touch on that later in my presentation about where they get their money from. True or false? The Tavern League of Wisconsin supports making a first offense OWI a misdemeanor. They don't support it. They completely disagree with it. They don't want it to be a misdemeanor, and I'll touch on that later in my presentation as well. As of December 31st, 2015, how many drivers in Wisconsin had 10 or more OWIs? $113, $210, $432, or $575. The correct answer is $210. I will touch on the stats later in my presentation, but these statistics don't overlap. So if you have 10 OWIs, you're not included in the group that has 9 OWIs. You just have 10 OWIs, and you're in that group. Last question, what is the highest number of OWIs that a single person has on their record in Wisconsin? 14, 16, 19, or 23? Correct answer is 16, and I believe it's 2 people have that many, so it's kind of sad. Yeet. And the winner is Sydney. Got 7 out of 10. Good job. Let me go back to the presentation. So we'll start about the culture. So a lot of the population in Wisconsin is German ancestry. The Germans were the largest immigrant group to settle in Wisconsin in the 19th century, and they were the largest European group to settle in the U.S. in the 19th century. With that, they brought beer, brats, and cheese to the culture, and Wisconsin today still lives out that culture. The Milwaukee Brewers is a good example of it. It's just, in our sports teams, it's everywhere. So back to the OWI, DUI thing. OWI is Wisconsin's version of a DUI. I've got the statute right here from the state statute book. No person may drive or operate a motor vehicle while under the influence of an intoxicant, a controlled substance analog, or any combination of an intoxicant, a controlled substance, and a controlled substance analog under the influence of any other drug to a degree which renders him or her incapable of safely driving, or under the combined influence of an intoxicant and any other drug to a degree which renders him or her incapable of safely driving. So to the Tavern League of Wisconsin. The Tavern League of Wisconsin is sponsored by beer and spirits companies. They support legislation that is in favor of the bars. They're a non-government funded corporation. They have about 5,000 bars that they overlook, and but it's not all the bars in Wisconsin. However, they all support them because they are big hitters in the legislature business for trying to get any alcohol-related legislation to pass that would favor the bars. And in the case of the Cahoot, it was the misdemeanor for first offense drunk driving. They also didn't support when smoking passed to get in the bars. But they have a history of saying that they donate to charity. They have this Safe Ride program that successfully sent home 91,000 patrons safely from the bars. What it is if a bar is not busy and they have someone that needs a ride home, a bartender can give them a ride home at no cost. It saves on, obviously, Uber or Lyft or taxi all cost money. This costs nothing. And it's only from bars that are part of the Tavern League. And like I said, the Tavern League looks out for the bars more than they look out for the consumers. In Wisconsin, there's roughly 8 bars per 10,000 people that live here, which town of 200,000 people in Madison, 160 bars, I mean, roughly. So history, alcohol consumption has been around for thousands of years. However, drinking and driving couldn't be possible without the car. And the car was first mass-produced in 1908 with the Model T from Ford Motors. And then the first drinking and driving law was finally put into effect in Wisconsin in 1911. With that law, first offense for drinking and driving in 1911 would get you a $10 to $50 ticket. And that was it. Any offense after the first offense, so second and beyond, got you $25 to $100 fine and or 60 days in prison. Which still doesn't seem too terrible. The prison obviously is the worst part, but and it's the tradition is carried on. So our laws are still just as lenient as they were back then. And here's a video of the Tavern League. Oh, shit. Gotta take it out of presentation. We good?
Now, and tonight we look at a power player in our state's drinking culture, the Tavern League of Wisconsin. We wanted to know, what is this group and where does its influence come from? For those answers, we turn to NBC 26's Matt Jarko.
In its most simple terms, the Tavern League of Wisconsin is a group of bar and restaurant owners that makes up a big part of Wisconsin's alcohol industry. It's an organization of around 5,000 members and a rather small leadership group that works to promote and defend members' interests around the state. We wanted to know more and asked the Tavern League's president for comment multiple times. We didn't hear back. So we went to talk with former state legislators who have worked with the Tavern League from both sides of the aisle. Democrat Tom Nelson.
They have the reputation of having a lot of influence.
And Republican Dean Coffert.
They're very grassroots. They're very, they get their members involved in things.
We want to note, Coffert's family owns a bar that is a Tavern League member, and he did receive campaign contributions from the group. When we looked at the Tavern League's overall contributions, we found it gave mainly to Republicans, but some Democrats too. According to the Wisconsin Ethics Commission Eye on Lobbying, the Tavern League spent more than $120,000 on lobbying efforts last year. Coffert and Nelson say the league's primary influence isn't in the money.
They don't have a strong or large governmental operations as far as people who are actually walking the halls in Madison, I think they rely on their local tavern owners, and that is why they're so effective, because everyone knows them.
Nelson recalled talking to members when Wisconsin passed a smoking ban inside bars and restaurants.
It seemed to me that, that they really had a base of support in communities all across the state. Now, sometimes there's organizations that are really top heavy that don't have a good relationship with their membership. That was not the case with the Tavern League.
At that time, the state also looked at making a first drunken driving offense a crime. Nelson said it didn't go through based on money and timing. It would have cost too much as the recession hit.
It's been 10 years. There's no reason why this could not have been accomplished since then.
At the Tavern League's lobby day this year, leadership said the group has supported tougher penalties on repeat offenders, ignition interlocks, and funding for the group's Safe Ride program. The Tavern League has not lobbied on criminalizing a first offense OWI. And while representatives of the Tavern League wouldn't talk for this story, we do know it's a powerful organization. Will leaders use that power to toughen penalties on drinking and driving in Wisconsin? We'll find out. Matt Jarko, NBC 26.
This week, the Tavern League is holding their annual fall conference.
So that is the Tavern League in a nutshell. My mom also works at a bar, and she tried to get in contact with the local Tavern League representative in Rock County, and she also could not get a hold of them. They seem like they don't want to talk to many people about what they do. The more videos I watch, the more I realize this. They seem very secretive and mischievous, to say the least. So this is back to the bar to grocery store ratio. This is a map of the United States with dots showing how dense the bar to grocery store ratio is compared to everywhere else. This green or blue-ish color, these are areas where there's 3 times more grocery stores than there are bars. And Wisconsin you can basically see the outline of Wisconsin with the dark brown dots. Nationally, there's about 13% more grocery stores than there are bars. So Wisconsin is pretty ahead of the game, I guess. So punishment. These are the current penalties for drunk driving. Up here in this red rectangle, you'll see what the penalty is for first offense OWI. And that includes $150, $300 ticket, 6 to 9 months revocation, and if your BAC was 0.15 or over, never mind, 0.15 or over for the revocation. Or no, 0.15 for the sobriety program. So you would have to have a breathalyzer on your car, so ignition interlock, for a year if your BAC was 0.15 or over. And then down here is where the 4th OWI is, and that is where it turns into a felony. So you can get 3 OWIs and they're not going to be a felony at all. It's really culture based, and Wisconsin definitely likes to treat it as brushing it off the shoulder. So slap on the wrist in your legislature. So this is the chart of people that have so many number of OWIs, and these numbers do not overlap. I don't know if that can see, but there's 2 drivers with 16 OWIs, as I had said before, 3 with 15, 5 with 14, 11 with 13, and it just keeps going up. The numbers do not overlap, like I said earlier. So the 131,000 people that have 2 OWIs are not included in the 448,000 people that have 1 OWI. Those numbers would simply be added together for people that have 1 and 2 OWIs. And that was 5 years ago, so the numbers certainly, I'm sure, have increased as time has gone on. So a little comparison between Wisconsin and other states. So Arizona is often referred to as one of the tougher states in the country for drunk driving. Their minimum 10-day jail stay for first offense, DUIs, there it's a DUI, 90-day jail stay for second offense DUI, and a felony for the third. South Dakota is one of the more lenient states. They have no minimum jail sentence for first and second offense DUI and a felony for the third time offense DUI. Poor enforcement, low fines make it hard to crack down on the DUIs there. So tips to prevent drunk driving in the first place: don't drive. If you've been drinking, don't drive. Oh, don't drink. My bad. Don't drink. Plan ahead. If you feel buzzed, you probably should not drive. There's Uber, Lyft, and taxi services all at people's disposals. And then the Tavern League Wisconsin Safe Ride program, which I mentioned earlier. And then I've got another video. And this video is going to be about lowering the legal limit from 0.08 to what it currently is, down to 0.05.
Alex, at 5 feet 8 inches and 195 pounds, he's the average American male in terms of height and weight. This is Allison, at 5 foot 3 inches and 166 pounds. She's the average American female in terms of height and weight. Here's the average drink. It could be a 5-ounce glass of wine, a 12-ounce beer, or a shot of 80 proof liquor. Each contains roughly the same amount of alcohol. Alex and Allison are at a party for 2 hours. Over that period of time, it will take Alex 5.5 drinks to push him over the legal driving limit of a 0.08% blood alcohol content. Allison will only be able to consume about 3.5 drinks to push her over the limit. Consider if the legal driving limit were lowered to a 0.05 blood alcohol content. It would take Allison only 2.5 drinks over 2 hours to reach this limit, while it would take Alex about 4 drinks. The National Transportation Safety Board estimates lowering the legal limit to 0.05 could reduce drunk driving deaths in the United States by as many as 800 annually. So how bad is driving a car with a 0.08% blood alcohol level? The impairment is equivalent to driving on a 4-hour sleep deficit, driving under the influence of prescription drugs like Ambien, taking a hands-free call while driving. Think that's scary? Get this, texting while driving is actually 6 times more dangerous than driving under the influence at 0.08. Automobile accidents claim 40,000 lives a year in America, a statistic that would be reduced greatly if drivers adopted simple, safe driving techniques. Meet Alex at 5.
So as you heard in the video, 800 lives a year nationally to save that many people. That's huge. If you could do anything to save that many lives, I'd say go ahead and do it. And that's been considered in legislature recently, is to lower the legal limit from 0.08 to 0.05. My opinion on the matter, I think it should be lowered. I also think first offense ODUI should be a misdemeanor offense. I think that would be fair. Do I think it will ever happen in the near future? Probably not, because of Tavern League of Wisconsin. They make it hard for congressmen and congresswomen to try and pass that kind of legislature, because they do what's in favor of the bars, and they have their best interests in the bars and not the consumers. Some statistics that I want to say. So, one person is injured or killed in alcohol-related crashes every 3.1 hours. Of 527 persons killed in Wisconsin in 2013, 35% died in alcohol-related crashes. That was in the Kahoot. One traffic crash every 4.4 minutes. 3.1% of people in Wisconsin report driving after drinking too much. This compares to the 1.9% national average in the United States. 1 in 3 traffic deaths in the U.S. involve a drunk driver. 3 of every 10 Americans will be involved in an alcohol-related vehicle crash in their lifetime. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Sydney, any thoughts?
You guys have any thoughts?
No.
Does it surprise you at all that many people are affected by drunk driving?
It's sad.
Do you see, do you know anyone that has been affected by drunk driving?
I think everyone knows someone that's been affected. I
Yeah.
mean, whether getting a OWI or just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you think it's possible that this legislature could get passed, either to lower the legal limit or to make a first offense a crime?
I just feel like, especially in Wisconsin, bars and just alcohol in general is such a lucrative, like system, that they're not gonna try to do anything to try and restrict people's consumption at all. So I feel like it's very unlikely that will happen in Wisconsin, at least at all anytime soon.
Do you think it's a cultural thing?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Drinks are literally way stronger here than really anywhere else. Like, there's been people, like friends, my sister's friends from California. She had lived in California for like 5 years and then came back here and had a couple of drinks and was like totally completely wasted because she wasn't used to how strong the drinks were here when she used to live here. Because she was used to how the drinks were in California, which she could have like 10 because there's super, super small amounts of alcohol in them.
Yeah.
Where here you can't have as many because they're just stronger.
Right. What do you think?
No, I definitely think it's like a culture issue. I mean, and I think too with a lot of people are trying to persuade to get like drinking down to like 18 or 19 for age. So I mean that would be hard to even try to get the BAC down to 0.05.
Right. You think it would keep more people off the road?
I think there'll be more. I think there'll be more tickets and more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
More OWIs if it is at 0.05.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, these are my 4 enhancements. PowerPoint, Kahoot, videos, and audience discussion. And after that is my presentation. Does anybody have any questions? No? Cindy?
What is the most interesting fact you learned when researching? about
most,
drunk driving in Wisconsin.
oof. Most interesting. I did find the bar to grocery store ratio very interesting. I thought the map, I mean, just looking at the map, you could see an outline of Wisconsin, and it was majority bars. I mean, you just think of all the small town bars and all the bars everywhere in Wisconsin. It's just insane to actually look at a map of it and compare it to the South.
I have another question.
Sure.
How do you think we can solve this pervasive issue?
I don't think it'll ever be fully solved.
Do you think having a 0.0, like 0.0, you cannot drive under any influence?
That would be, I mean,
Are
if
you in support of that or not?
I mean, if it were to get to that point, I feel like that would be like there's no leniency then. Like you could say, you know what, you drank, you can't drive at all. And I think that would help a lot of people. People won't be able to say like, oh, I just had a drink, I can go drive. Like, no, you drank, you can't drive. I mean, we drink at home. It's very evident here. We drink at home. We don't drive while we're drunk, but we drink at home, and I think that's the best. 0.00, that it would take a long time for it to get down to that, I think. And I think the Tavern League would prevent it from happening, because they want people to go out to the bars and be able to go home and possibly drive if they'd only drink one.
Yeah, I just think that when you have it at like 0.05 or 0.08, people are gonna highly underestimate their BAC because it's impossible to test your own BAC. You
Right,
can't.
unless you just carry around a breathalyzer
Yeah,
with
no
you.
one does that. So it's impossible to do that. And so people will just be more lenient because they're like, oh, I had like 4 or 5 beers, whatever.
Yeah,
And they're going to drive. So I think I'm in favor of being 0.0 just because my rule of thumb is if I drink, I don't drive, period. It doesn't matter how many drinks I have.
I am also that way, yeah.
Just because you much rather be safe than sorry, because I could not imagine thinking you're okay driving and then all of a sudden, oh, you're really not. And actually, at 0.04, you are impaired when you're driving, which is kind of crazy because our legal limit is 0.08, double that.
Yeah,
Where your driving is already impaired at 0.04.
I agree.
Good job.